What's up? I'm Ayla.
This is Let's Talk BL, a boys love podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast. It is Sunday Series Sunday, that one day of the week where we talk all things one series and one series only. And this week, we're talking about a very sweet, very sad, sweet, sad, sweet, bittersweet story.
I mean, on brand for
the actors that are in. Well, one of the
and
actors
the studio.
and
Lord of mercy, they can't give us a break on the emotions.
Truly,
we're talking My Only 12%.
I'm really excited to talk about this one. I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I kind of went into it and I was like, I don't love a high school drama. So I really went into it being like, I don't know, like, I'm going to watch this for Kuhart because I love Kuhart. And I ended up really, really enjoying it.
Where did we get the chime jump? Was it a half and half situation?
Roughly. I think maybe more like 60-40, but
because I was like, oh my god, there were 14 episodes.
Yeah, it was a long one. I also did appreciate that.
Yeah,
especially when giving us a time jump, because I hate a time jump because I feel like I want to know what happened in the middle. And so if you're not gonna let me know what happened in the middle, at least give me more on the front and back end.
I see.
Like at least make it not as jarring to be like, well, all of a sudden we're in this new time, in this new place emotionally, in this new growth, right? It's jarring for me.
I did feel like we got a good amount from freshman year of high school to then freshman year of college. Like I can appreciate like a high school time jump.
Yeah.
We know what happens.
But again, I like with this one that they put a lot of it, like a lot of development in the second half, because it felt less jarring to me, because like essentially they've magically developed is what has happened, right? Like emotionally and whatever, like that's what happens with a time jump.
Yeah.
And so it's jarring, right? They've all of a sudden become this new person, and like when there's not enough on the back end, which is why like I hate when there's a time jump in the final episode. I hate that. It's just like such a jarring change versus like the way that they did it in My Only 12%. You had time to like adjust and understand, because you almost have to redevelop those characters when you have a time jump like that. Anyways, I thought they did a really good job.
Yeah, they did a great job. Okay, so this is available on iQIYI.
Yes.
From Wabi Sabi.
Love it.
Wabi Sabi giving us big Until We Meet Again vibes.
Always. Listen, if it ain't broke,
tears.
don't fix it.
It's so true. Starring as Cake Santa, who, dang, I can't wait to scream about this boy because he kills it in this show. For this, like, his second thing out of the gate.
And his first thing was like a mini series, essentially.
This boy can shed a tear.
Yeah.
Whew. And then as CU Earth.
Yes.
Sweet Kuhart. Big Earth. We are sporting his Celio Heart stuff.
Well, he's Little Earth.
Oh, right. Little Earth. Sporting his Celio Heart stuff. It's very cute. I've seen so many BL boys wearing it. Ford from Love in the Air is currently wearing like all of his stuff, and I'm like, it always makes me wonder, what are the connections? Yeah, right. Nanon was the reason that I bought this one. This like because
Nanon wore the hoodie version of this.
And the style, like I bought it because Nanon wore it, but also because I really liked the style. And then we got the story. Go watch our
interview with Santa and
Earth, and he talked about being inspired by High School Musical. And y'all, I loved High School Musical. I went to the concert tour. I had a cardboard cutout of Zac Efron. I bought movie tickets for friends to go with me to watch it because no one was going to watch it because I was like a senior in college.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I remember I really liked High School Musical, but I watched it, like, when I first watched it, like, ironically, like it wasn't currently airing when I watched it. I was like a little too young to be like into that kind of thing when it actually came out. Like I was like a young, like, what do they call it? Like a preteen.
You would have been in like early high school because I was in college when it first came out.
Yeah, I was like,
and we were like 4 years apart.
Yeah.
So I loved High School Musical. Loved it. So yeah, it was really cute. And there's like a little phrase, we love some sleeve work.
Yeah.
This is not a Celia,
not sponsored.
Not sponsored,
Not
but
fun.
like go get your Celia Heart stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think you can still line order some stuff.
Sure.
It's really easy
if you're
to order
in
merch.
Thailand, you can buy it at
Wap
Cafe.
Yeah.
Okay. Synopsis voice time.
Do it.
Cake and Siu have been friends as far as they can remember. Cake is very outgoing and has a lot of friends, while Siu is very shy and barely speaks to people he's not used to being around. Despite their different personalities, they are very close. By being next door neighbors since they were born, they became an essential aspect of each other's lives. However, as they become older, things change, and so do the way they see each other. There's only a 12% possibility of having a successful first love. Would that 12% be enough? This is a good synopsis. I do like this synopsis, actually.
You know what I also
It's
loved?
also well written.
Yeah. You know what I also loved is another wink to our interview. Our intro to our interview kind of went in line with how the show ended. Because he was like 100%, 1%. I was like, oh, that was cute. Okay, let's start with the beginning when they're in high school.
Yeah.
I thought it was really well done, the way that they portrayed these boys as friends, and I fully believe them as friends without some underlying weird...
Right, that they're legitimately just friends at that point. Yeah.
And it was a sweet, just like friendship that they had at the beginning where Cake genuinely cares about Siu in a way that it's almost, you know what it reminds me of? This is so ridiculous and probably a far reach. When Jacob from Twilight,
oh my god,
imprints on Renesmee, it's one of those situations where I feel like Cake imprinted on Siu, and he didn't quite understand why he cared so much about this boy. And then eventually when Siu starts going out into the world and starts interacting with other people and like it develops more in an adult situation, I do really appreciate that they developed them romantically as adults.
Yeah, that it's not like this, you were my first love and whatever, blah blah blah. Yeah,
I do.
I mean, it is a first love, but it wasn't like my childhood love. That's what we normally get a lot of, is like, this was my childhood love. Like, I'm only thinking of this example, it happens in a lot of shows, but
Big Dragon.
No.
Love at First Sight when they were 8 years old.
No, because he didn't realize that was him. He fully says, I didn't like you till freshman year.
True.
But no, just because like I was talking about him like earlier, 2 Moons with Wyo and Peapod, like that very much was like Wyo was a child and was like, right? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And same thing with Star in My Mind. Right, where it's very much like they're kids and it's this like it's all stemming from like, this is my childhood love. I did appreciate that this wasn't like a childhood love.
Yeah, it's a sweet, it's almost like Bad Buddy but take out the competition.
It is so funny that you mentioned Twilight and Jacob and Renesmee, because somebody earlier today was asking me about this. Literally, somebody earlier today was like, Ayla, how did you... I forget how Twilight even came up. I unironically like Twilight. So like,
I love Twilight.
In case anybody's wondering,
I don't ironically like anything. I think that's so silly.
A lot of people, like, I was like going to the midnight premieres of these movies and like, this was like, even my generation that watched these movies, like the first one came out and it became a joke, and so then after it,
I read all the books.
All of like, we would all go to the movies, but like jokingly, but it wasn't a joke for me. Like, I
love it.
And so I forget why it came up, but somebody was like, Ayla, how did you feel about like Jacob and that baby? And I was like, oh my god, I forget why that came up, but that literally somebody earlier today asked me about this exact scenario.
And that baby. Oh my god,
I was like, so it's funny that you mentioned that, but I don't know, I think it very much like reminded me like less of like Twilight. I think that is a little bit of a stretch, and more of like, honestly, this is a currently airing show, so I don't know if this is like gonna stand up, but my man and Little in Remember Me.
Oh yeah.
It reminds me a lot of that, actually.
Lord have mercy. When we do that series Sunday,
Yeah.
I will scream about the yearbook many more times.
But like No Name, and then I always forget my man's name in this. He's not Champ. Not Champ.
It's something. It's
It's
something.
gonna drive me
It's
crazy.
something a little different. E.
I don't know. Anyways, No
Fuck.
Name and Man.
Yes.
It reminds me a lot of that because it's sort of the same scenario where like they're friends and like he
there's like
befriends
no romance
this boy
to it.
and there's no
M.
And there's no romance to it whatsoever until
we
they're
don't
college
know.
aged, right? Because like that's when you kind of start getting like
Yeah.
you kind of start realizing like, okay, for No Name, this is something like you start to realize there's like a little more to it for No Name, especially now that they're and so like we'll see because again, this is a currently airing show, so I don't actually know.
Did you have any relationships like that in high school with boys?
What do you mean where it was like we were just friends, like straight up just friends?
Yeah, and maybe if like down the line you had been single and like reconnected with them, you could have developed more. That somebody you like loved. That like,
I don't know
in
because
a purely platonic way.
Yeah, and so it's hard for me to answer like if we reconnected, like would I want to be romantically involved with them? And I'm like, I don't know because all of the people that are coming to my mind that I was like straight up just like friends with in high school, no, I can't see them as a romantic interest because like that's my friend. Yeah.
I'm talking about somebody like what you said a little bit ago where you loved them probably a little more than what was just friends.
Oh, yeah. I definitely there was like one boy in high school that like it was probably honestly like for both of us a little more, but like we didn't really like it wasn't like
neither one of you crossed the line.
did, and like we were friends all while I was dating someone else, and like we were really, really like very platonic friends.
Yeah,
but like very much like we both had the same like after school job, like we both worked together at Old Navy. And like we would manipulate the schedule so that we could work together, and we would like manipulate the floor assignment.
What is that drama? That's
and we would like manipulate the floor assignment so that we could do the denim wall together, because if you've ever worked at Old Navy, you know that that's the project on the floor that takes forever. So
side note, if you have worked at Old Navy, I worked at the flagship store in San Francisco. There is one person to the denim wall.
At all times. Yeah. See, so in my store, obviously, it was a smaller store. Like it wasn't a flagship store. It was pretty big, but it wasn't a flagship store.
No, it was
we would just wait to fix the denim wall until the end of the night.
Yeah.
And so, like, we would like manipulate the floor assignments so that we would both get put on the denim wall, or like if we got put on different things, we would like if you were doing like runs back from the dressing room, right, to put stuff back where it belonged. We like whichever one of us was doing that would like rush through it so that we would be like, oh, I'm going to go help Ben with the denim wall now, right? So we could just then say it. And so, like, there probably was. And we actually did. So, like, he went away for college and I went away for college. Like, I went to San Antonio. He went to San Marcos. Like, we went to different schools. And my best friend, or one of my best friends, went to the same college as Ben, but she's, like, older than him. And so she had an apartment. I also had an apartment my freshman year of college.
You weren't allowed to have apartments your freshman year where I went.
I also had my own apartment, but like we would go visit because like whatever, she's like one of my best friends. And I remember one time finally I was like, we had visited her apartment a few times and I was like, oh my God, Ben goes to Texas State. And I was like, I should text Ben. And I did. And I was like, we're having a party. Do you want to come? And he was like, yeah, for sure. And we like, there definitely was like this probably could have underlined, but at that point I already was like kind of sort of seeing someone else. Like it was like a whole thing.
Interesting.
So like I can
love
think of
at
one
the denim
boy,
wall,
because every other boy that I would like, I didn't really have a bunch of friends that were boys in high school. I didn't really have friends that were guys until college.
Oh, interesting.
Like all of the boys that I interacted with in high school were like I liked them, or they were like older than me and they would almost like take care of me. It wasn't that we were necessarily friends, because like I was on the debate team in high school. It was like super cool.
What in the Mean Girls?
I actually did really well on the debate. I actually was known as the girl that made people cry, like on the debate circuit. And literally they used to call me Game Over Girl because one time I like famously made someone cry by just saying, because I beat their argument in the round, and I just ended it by saying game over, and this girl started crying.
Listen, you talk about you peaked in high school. The more you talk about your high school experience, the more I'm like, no.
I was famous on the debate circuit. Thank you for making people cry, first of all. But so like all of the boys that I knew through the debate team, they were all older than me, and they would like take care of me. And part of it was also self-serving because I was like really good as a freshman and I could read really fast, which is important. Anyways, it was more of like an older brother, younger sister kind of vibe, not so much just like we're buddies.
Yeah.
And then every other boy I hung out with, I like had a crush on at some point.
Yep. Yeah, there was definitely like one boy that I remember so vividly, and he was older than me, and I went to his high school graduation, and I remember sitting in someone's minivan because of course at that age we're like driving our parents' cars.
Right.
And I just remember sobbing that he was graduating high school and going away to college, and like was like, why am I so emotional? Because this was a boy that like we were best friends in church and would like hold hands in church, and like we were just like buddies. Like it was never, I never felt anything more than that. But in that moment, I was like, maybe.
Oh my God, no, especially all the church boys that I knew when I was like a young teenager. Oh, especially those boys I had it bad for. I was not friends with any boys from church.
Oh, I was
all the boys from church, I like had it down bad for.
I love it. I love it. But yeah, I thought that the way they developed this story was really good. So going back to the high school years, the friends in this show were really sweet.
Yeah.
But man, when you makes that friend, what was his name? His name is Sand. When he first meets that boy, like it's gonna be trouble.
Yeah.
Like you hope that like, oh my gosh, he's made a friend, right? Because you has like no friends other than Cake.
Yeah.
And so you're like, and it's the way that they handle that is really sweet too. They make it so that it seems that you is kind of in charge of that, where he's like, it's not that Cake is pushing him aside when they go to high school. It's that you is like, I don't want to be a part.
Yeah.
He like distanced himself. And you see Cake constantly being like, come hang out with us. Like they don't bite. Like they want to be friends with you. And they even are asking him why he doesn't hang out.
And he's more of like,
he's like, he's shy.
Well, and like, it almost feels like you is like, I'm just not interested in being your friend, which like happens sometimes. And it's not that you like, I have someone in my life like that because mutual friends of people where it's like, if we are at the same place or we see each other, like I'm not mad at you, I don't hate you, but I just like, I have no interest in being friends with you because we have nothing in common, and I can't imagine if it was just the two of us hanging out, like what we would even talk about.
Which is very high school though, because like the older you get, the more that you realize like you're gonna interact with people that you have zero in common with, but like you can talk about the weather.
But yeah, but like, again, you're not going to be like you're not going to call him your friend, right? You're not going to be like, hey, do you want to go out for drinks? Hey, do you want to this? Hey, do you want to that? Right?
I mean, like, you might, because depending on where you live, especially if you live in bigger cities, sometimes if you like end up being the last two people in a social situation.
Well, but what I mean is you're not going to specifically make plans.
You're not going to, you're not going to call
just the two of you.
Yeah,
you're not going to be like, hey, do you want to go grab drinks with me? Like just me? Like, no, you're not going to do that.
Yeah. So I thought it was really sweet the way that they handle their dynamic within their groups of friends.
Yes, because it could have been very sad.
Yeah.
And that was another thing that made me nervous about this show is like, I feel as somebody that got like teased a lot and like bullied a little bit and made fun because, as I just said, I was on the debate team and I was like a larger, like, we've talked about this on the podcast before, but like I recently have lost almost 150 pounds. So it's like, in high school, that's not an acceptable thing to be. And like, I also had just moved back from Korea when I started high school. So like, I didn't have like, how normally in high school, like people know each other from middle school. I didn't have that. Like I knew no one.
Yeah. I started in a new zone for middle school, which was like 10 times worse because middle school sucks. No matter, If you had a good middle school experience, I want to know, because I know nobody who liked middle school.
I have some friends that are middle school teachers and middle school counselors, and even they're like,
it's the worst.
Yeah.
I was a student teacher at the middle school, and I was like, I don't want to be a teacher anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, I got bullied like pretty heavily.
Yeah.
Not to the point where I like, not pretty heavily, not in comparison to a lot of other people.
Right.
Like, I didn't go through that kind of thing. Although one time somebody did bring a gun to school to try and kill me, and I had to switch schools. That actually was that actually did happen to me.
Casual.
It was over something really stupid too.
I mean, as it always is. I got kicked off the bus for something really stupid.
Yeah, but I will not tell the story, but it was really stupid. Anyways, I went to a new school, and there I became a lacrosse cheerleader, and so like my station in life.
The fact that you guys had lacrosse cheerleaders.
I also got invited to the prom by a junior as a sophomore, so like my social status rose a little bit when I transferred schools. So it was all for the best.
Did you guys have cheerleading for every sport?
I don't know. I joined that because I had a crush on a boy in my drama class who played lacrosse. His name was Nick. I don't know what they did in sports.
Traditional cheerleading costumes?
Kind of, because like, lacrosse is more of like a preppy kind of like. We had these like skirts that were plaid. It was like the plaid in the colors of my school, which was green and navy. And
those are good colors for plaid.
And then we had like polos from how do you even say Aeropostale?
Aeropostale.
Yeah, Aeropostale. Yeah. So we had like these like.
Does that store exist still?
I don't know, but we had these like three, like they went to like about our elbows.
Just
and they
like
were, like,
the show,
polos.
this conversation feels very retro. This makes so much sense.
But yeah. So I don't know if they had cheerleaders for the other sports. I literally only got involved in it because
like that sounds like you'd have cheerleading for like the swim team.
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't have a crush on any swimmers.
We got lacrosse at our high school when I was in high school, and I don't remember anything.
Listen, as I feel like people will understand about me, I basically did anything to chase a boy. I almost became one of those like, what do they call them? The people that like twirl the flags with the band.
Oh no!
I almost signed
color guard. I'm so sorry if you were color guard, but oh no!
I literally almost signed up to that because I had a crush on a boy on the drum line.
Because here's the hierarchy of girls in school in that realm. You have the cheerleaders, and if you didn't make cheerleading, you went to the dance team, and if you didn't make the dance team, you went to color guard. And
listen, this was my logic. I didn't play an instrument, and so I needed some way to be involved with band.
Play the cymbals
because
that would have been funny.
Because a boy, well, no, on drumline it's only boys. At the time, there were no girls on drumline. That wasn't a thing. But the boy that I liked was on drumline, so like I had to have someone to be.
Oh
I didn't do it. I didn't actually sign up to be color guard, but I almost did. So like, yeah, I don't know if they had cheerleaders for other sports. I signed up because again, I had a crush on a boy named Nick in my drama class who definitely was like really into the idea that I liked him, but like he didn't actually like me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
love those boys.
One of the little girls that was already a lacrosse cheerleader was like, Nick said you might want to be like a lacrosse cheerleader, like, and came and like hunted me down.
Cute.
Because one of the things that we did, which I think the football cheerleaders do this too, or like the real cheerleaders do this too.
Right. The fact that there was a separate cheerleading squad, I think is what I'm like confused about.
Yeah. I think that like the real cheerleaders.
They're like the real cheerleaders will certainly not cheer for lacrosse. Yeah,
they're like, we will not be involved in this.
This is the B League.
Yeah. We would decorate their lockers.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I think that he liked that I liked him and wanted someone to decorate his locker. And like, he definitely would like play it up. Like he knew I liked him and anyways.
So in BL world, sending either tuk-tuks or a money bouquet is the equivalent of decorating a boy's locker.
Those stories. Yeah. No, here's the thing. As I feel like everyone will know is on brand for me.
You would definitely.
In high school, I did almost anything to chase a boy. Yeah, I would fully anonymously like decorate God's locker fully, but like anonymously.
People would decorate their cars.
People, yeah, we didn't really have like car decorations.
You'd get like the window paint.
Yeah, I know.
Anyways, back to the show. So yeah, when you meet Sand, you're like, oh, this boy could be sweet. And man, does that take a turn.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that Cake took that boy down.
Oh, like ruthlessly.
I mean, these two boys just had like the sweetest high school relationship.
Yeah, I think what I like, because normally I think we said this, I don't love a high school drama. Mostly because this all started with I got bullied in high school because I was like I've always been into weird stuff. Always. Like I was like a book nerd. I would like my original fanfic came out of like books. I was always into boy bands, all this stuff. I got bullied pretty heavily. Not heavily, but again, enough.
Yeah.
That when I watch a high school drama and I see anyone even like vaguely getting bullied, I just have so much empathy. It makes me upset. Like I get like I will cry. Like I get upset. Even during movies that are supposed to be funny, like The Duff, there are parts of that movie where like I cry because I get so upset over that kind of thing. And so I was very hesitant on this one because I was like, but high school in general, because I was like,
he doesn't get bullied though. He gets just like bullied. He gets taken advantage of.
That's what I like appreciate about this is that like, especially because it was Kuhart, I was so nervous because I was like, if I watch
because he gets bullied on the regular,
right? So I'm like, if I watch him play someone getting bullied, like I'm really gonna lose it emotionally. But no, I felt like they handled like it seemed like he didn't want the friends, right? It wasn't, which I appreciated. It also seemed like a real high school dynamic, not like again, like in The Duff, it's very much a fake high school dynamic. Like that's a dramatization of a high school dynamic.
I really appreciate, which I feel like is more of a trope in the West, the two childhood friends where the one becomes too cool. Yeah, I hate that dynamic. Yeah. That never happens. Maybe it never happens. Well, because he goes to America, so maybe it would have happened like their senior year. But I want to give Cake more credit and think that would never happen. I don't think that would happen. Maybe they would have had their like awakening earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, they could have been in high. Are they still high school sweethearts? If you
because you
weren't sweethearts in high school.
Sweethearts in high school.
Yeah. But yeah, I do appreciate that they kind of take Sand down.
Yeah, Cake and like Cake leads that. Like, yeah, Cake is like
the other big thing that happens in high school that I really thought was beautifully done was how Yu realizes he's gay and how he has his kind of awakening while watching The Love of Siam, which I really want to watch this movie. It gets brought up because it was one of the original BL movies.
Yeah.
And people talk about it, and so I need to go watch it. I definitely do. But the way that that's handled, I thought was so realistic, where he's watching it with his sister and she's like, oh no, the boys, they're kissing, I have to turn this off. Because if it was in the 90s or even early 2000s,
right,
it would have been really risque for them to be watching, especially as a freshman in high school. And so when he goes back and sneaks back and watches it and like realizes like, oh no, these boys make me feel the things that I feel with Cake, and like he has that. I thought that was so beautifully done.
Yeah.
I loved that moment.
Which like I will say one of the best things about Wabi Sabi and like just Kuhart in general, and like you see this a lot with like Fluke Natuk, the characters he plays, is that like because he has had that in his real life, I think that like it's almost more emotional because like he's not having to reach for that. Yeah. He's not having to like understand what that would maybe feel like. Yeah. And so like, and I think it just goes into like the way that it's written, right? And the way that like they bring it to life is there's like an extra layer to it because that's they've actually felt that before.
Yeah.
They don't have to make up this feeling, right? Like
right. Yeah, this reminds me, we have an interview coming soon, and somebody talks about a coming out scene.
Yeah.
And how, when you have the extra layer of having either experienced it before or somebody writing it who had experienced before or even somebody directing who had experienced before.
I can't wait for this interview you're talking about to come out because that was my question, and it really
it's so sweet. Like,
oh my God, it meant so much to me to talk about that with that person.
Because I think that's the important part of this conversation and the bigger BL conversation is that I think, and we've talked about this before on the podcast, how we've like talked to gay men who are like, I don't do BL because A, B, C, or D. And then we do have, of course, gay male friends who love BL.
Right.
And so the dividing line on a lot of it is how realistic it is.
Sure.
And how it's tilted towards a female audience, a straight female audience.
Right. It's written
by or for straight females. And so it's nice when you have shows like this who they're directed by gay men, they're acted by gay men, and that's not always the case, and it doesn't have to always be the case.
No,
but it's nice to see these real stories that can be related to from, like we've talked about, obviously we can
any
relate to these,
right?
Yeah, but it's nice to show these characters, you know, that go-to line in BL now where it's like, love is not about gender. And that's so true, that these characters are relatable on so many levels.
And it is sweet. Nice because there's also like Robbie and Trevor were talking about this when we had them on the podcast back in June, how even the stories that are like super fluffy and clearly like not the real gay experience, at least not their lived experience, they still love and appreciate because it's something that like representation is just something they never saw before. That like
it gives you
even
hope.
Though it's not realistic for them and it's not like the real gay experience, but at the same time, like it's so fascinating. And Shaki has said this recently to us in our conversations about Big Dragon.
Yeah,
it's fascinating to see, and like Robbie kind of shares this perspective, which I was like, ooh, it's crazy that Shaki's saying the same thing, and like I don't think Shaki like heard Robbie say that. So it was like fascinating to me that it was coming from like two gay men who are out, who are, you know, like experienced this in their lives, like they're, you know, both said that like the thing about it is seeing stuff that is real, that really happens, but that some people will take the opportunity to attack and to say like whatever, to try and like take it down, to like soapbox about it.
Right.
And like it was just fascinating to hear them both say like this is real, and I like seeing it because it's real, and like I know like it's not right, and I know
things
it's not,
that are problematic.
Yeah, that they're like, I understand that it's problematic.
Like, why are we romanticizing these things?
Right, all of these things that people tend to soapbox about like we shouldn't romanticize this or that, and like
we shouldn't use this terminology, or we shouldn't say these things,
right? Or we shouldn't like show these actions because it's romanticizing it,
right?
And like to hear both Shaki and Robbie say like they actually enjoy that being in those shows because it is shown to you as being problematic, and that like they themselves understand that it's problematic,
right?
But it's something that really for real does happen. And so if like we just don't show it, it's almost like hiding part of their community under a rug, right? And so I think that it's fascinating to have those different layers because of course me, not being a gay man, never would have thought about it that way because it's just not my experience. And so like I think that when you have people who this is their lived experience, they're able to add these layers to it that you never would have thought of because it's not your perspective. And so like that's why we usually will shy away from saying like this is right, this is wrong, this, unless it's like something that's very clearly like crazy. Because like it's not our space to speak on. Well, like that is not our platform, our space. Like there's not room for our voices on that. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be.
Also, a lot of it is ambiguous when it comes to what should or shouldn't be shown because of that exact reason, where everybody's experience, everyone's triggers are different. And so you can't just wipe the slate clean of everything because gosh, there are so many people that have different experiences. And if you say that like that can never be shown, then people aren't aware that people deal with that stuff.
Right. True.
And so that's what's important about showing these different things is that you can have two people sitting and watching the same show, and one of those people never know that someone in the world experiences that situation. Whereas the other person may have experienced that situation and they're like triggered by it. But then it starts a conversation, right? Where it's like, oh, this person is now aware that this goes on. And it's important to kind of be able to see that. And unfortunately, not everyone is an adult. Not everyone can look through the filter of maturity, because that's what it comes down to. It comes down to maturity. And just like we've talked about, we are two very different people, and we can have two very differing views and still have a mature conversation where we get to the same place of like, I see it this way, you see it this way, and we understand that this may be offensive to you, but it's not offensive to me, or this is seen this way or that's seen this way.
Well, I mean, even something as like basically like Gen Y season 2. You thought Gen Y season 2 was a hot mess, and I was like, no, actually, I was like, actually, though, maybe it's genius. And like something as silly and fluffy and funny as that just like shows you that like there can be two perspectives.
There's room at the table for all of it.
I just think it was really important for like Kuhart to be it like giving us that scene, because I do think there was like layering to it that you might not have gotten from a perspective from a place where like you're having to reach for that feeling, you know?
Yes. The other thing that happens while they're in high school that annoys the mess out of me, and this is speaking to the bigger character flaw of Cake, because as much as I love Santa and he did a great job as Cake, Cake had a big character flaw, and his character flaw was that he was not able to have any type of self-awareness. He was unable to process his feelings until he was screaming at you about how much you had changed and how he wasn't paying attention to him and whatever. And you see that manifest early on in high school with the way that he breaks up with his girlfriend at the end when he's going off to America, because he can't just be like, I'm leaving, we're not going to be in a relationship, I want to spend more time with this boy. He's like, well, you're going to break up with me anyways.
Right.
Like, you're not going to stay with me. Obviously, you're going to, like, he puts everything on her.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I was like, ugh, he's such a coward. Instead of being like, because I think a little bit of it is the underlying scared feeling that, like, potentially if he did recognize that he just wanted to spend it with CU, then like things would have developed more. But he was just like, no, I want to go hang out with my buddy. Right. Instead of being like, I'm like thinking about, I'm breaking up with a girl because I want to hang out with a boy.
Well, but also, so like, I give him a little more leeway than that. Like, because you tend to call people cowards a lot. And I feel like that's such like, I call
Leo a coward.
Like, I also don't think that about Leo, but like, I feel like kind of an aggressive word for Cake, because again, he's in high school.
I don't think he's a coward. I think he did a cowardly thing in that moment.
And it may be that genuinely that is how he thought he felt, because like he's a high school boy, and so like he may have been very sure that like this is the reason, because it didn't click in his brain. I don't think that has anything to do with self-awareness. I think that that's how, in that moment in time, with his maturity level and his life experience level, when he processed that thought, right, when that train of thought happened of like, I'm going to America, I need to break up with my girlfriend, and like I'll get to hang out with you. I think that in his brain he was like, well, I'm leaving, and the only reason I'm with this girl is like proximity, and so if we don't have the proximity, like she's gonna dump me, and so like why put it off? And so I do think he genuinely was like processing that the way that he genuinely thought he felt. I don't think that has anything to do with his self-awareness. I think it has to do with like where he's at emotionally as a teenage boy that hasn't had like life experience and whose brain is still developing, right? Like,
because I think that's the thing, is that like they're 14, right? They're in 9th grade.
Yeah.
Which leads us to the side story of this 9th grader with this college.
Hard pass. No. Because this was my problem with Gen Y too.
Because when those two girls were having that conversation, and she straight up is like, he's in 9th grade. And I was like, oh my God, he's 14 years old.
No.
He's 14 years old. I mean, I do appreciate that they don't develop it at all until like he's in college and she's graduated. But like, I do appreciate the conversation that they have where she's like, he will forever be an age different from you. And so like, you need to move on and like draw a hard line. And she's like, but I like him. But she's not like, she's not like romanticizing it in a, like, she's very aware that she has feelings for this boy. And she's very aware that it's inappropriate at the age that they are. Because that's the thing, like, this is the conversation that gets brought up when you, I think, have like a May December romance, is that when you graduate, when you're out of school completely and you have like a 35-year-old with a 30-year-old, that feels normal. But when you have a 15-year-old with a 20-year-old, that's not okay.
And again, it comes down to life experience. Like I've said this before,
Right.
that like, correct, two, as we've talked about Big Dragon, you probably know two people that are the same age that are two very different maturity levels.
Yeah.
And it has way less to do with emotional maturity and it has way more to do with life experience.
Yeah.
And also it has a ton to do with the fact that like a 15-year-old's brain is still developing, right? And
I mean,
so like
for men, their brain still develops till 25.
Exactly. So like the impulse control
Yeah.
and all of that, but like
Yeah.
it comes down to just straight up life experience.
Right.
Whether or not they're a man and the woman or whatever, like a man and a man, you got two men that are at the same age and two different maturity levels. But like it has way less to do with like the emotional maturity and way more to do with like the life experience, the brain development, right? Because the example you gave was 30 and 35. Yeah. Both people are fully developed inside the noggin at that point. So
physically.
like,
actually, probably not. But yeah.
But no, like there are like scientific facts behind like impulse control and thing. And this is why, like, for example, if you live in America, like, you know that there's this whole thing about like boys are way more expensive to insure, like on a car, like for car insurance.
Right.
Until they turn 21. And like even after that, it costs more to insure men until they turn, I want to say it's like 28 or 30 or something like that. And that like you just like, it's an accepted fact that like boys, especially teenage boys, do not have the impulse control required to make logical decisions.
Right.
And so, and that's just like science. That's like the gray goo in their head not working right yet.
Yeah.
And so like I have a huge issue with like that argument of like, well, if they were 30 and 35, it wouldn't matter. No one would look twice. Well, yeah, you're right, because of science.
Right. What age they are.
And so like it's 100% inappropriate, wrong. Like she never should have even said anything to anybody, even if she had that fleeting thought of like, that's a cute boy or whatever.
I mean, I thought she did a great job going to her friend to be like, I need to talk this out with you. Like, I need the reassurance that like I need to stop this in its tracks.
No, I think she shouldn't have needed reassurance. Like I hated that. Like it made my skin crawl.
I thought it was smart because here's the thing. It's like feelings are stupid and blind, as we have seen in literally every show. And so it's realistic that you have feelings for somebody and especially when like you're young and you're coming into contact with people, like to have that conversation and to be like, no, you need to like set that boundary.
Not if you're in college and they're a freshman in high school. Sorry. Not if you are in college and is a freshman in high school, regardless of the genders involved. You should know as the college-aged person,
but
your
still...
brain, you shouldn't need the reassurance. You shouldn't be like, hey, tell me I really should. No, you need to know. And if you don't, just know flat out in your head that what you're doing is absolutely, no. What you're feeling is absolutely wrong.
Well, she knew it was wrong. That was the thing, is like she knew it was wrong, but like she still had those feelings. Because I think that's what it comes down to, is the fact that like you shouldn't ever suppress and keep secret those things that you know you're struggling with, right? Like that's the big conversation with a lot of these situations, is that like when you do keep it a secret and you don't share it with somebody, like you don't have accountability. And therefore she had accountability with this girl who was like, no, you know what you need to do, like you know what's right and wrong in this situation. And I think that gave her the extra like you need to stop and walk away from this boy. And
the problem I have is I don't think
down.
she should have needed the extra. Like, if you need that extra reassurance, like,
I feel like alcoholics shouldn't need to put down alcohol, but like, it's a thing that happens, right? Like, everybody
that's a little bit different than having romantic, because that's actually, comparing this to alcoholism is so problematic and wrong, because that's like, addiction is an actual like disorder. Like, that is a medical condition,
right?
Versus
so
like being like, hey, I think this 14-year-old is hot and you're in college. Like, that's very different from somebody who has alcoholism.
I mean, yes, I agree that it was a bad example, but I definitely think she handled it in a mature, smart way, because honestly, like, her feelings for this boy clearly didn't change in like 10 years.
I disagree. I hate her. I think it's stupid.
They like held out for 10 years.
No, I hate her.
That was wild. So that's the thing, is like, you have, I think in this situation, it was interesting, kind of like what we were talking about earlier. It was interesting to show this relationship, and I'm not really sure why they decided. I'm assuming it was in a book or whatever the source material was. It's gotta have been
in a novel, yeah.
But it was interesting for them to show this, because I feel like in different cultures, and I saw this recently, there was a conversation about the age of consent in an Asian country, in the Philippines. They were talking about how they had just changed the age of consent, because I think it was like 12. And they changed it to like, they were changing it to like 14 or 15. Like,
good.
Something.
Right.
And so that's the conversation that I think is had a lot of times, is that age of consent. And so I think that was an interesting conversation to be brought up in the straight storyline in a BL, that like, hey, this is a thing that happens, and this is a thing, because we just saw it actually in the eclipse, where everybody was like, are the teacher and AJ gonna get together?
Yeah, and everyone was so concerned. I will say I do appreciate that, like, I think it was interesting, and I think it was progressive in a way to make the predator the girl.
Yeah.
Because, like, she's a predator. Let's call it what it is. Like, she is a predator in that moment. 100p. Like, so I do think it was like progressive that they made a straight girl the predator, because so often gay men are portrayed as predators, and so often the stories that we see are like older men preying on younger girls.
Right.
So I do think that it was like progressive in a way that they like made the predator a straight woman.
It was fascinating that they held on to that storyline for like, they're gonna end up together.
It's not for me. This is what I'll say, is like, that storyline, it was not for me. If you related to it on some level, or you thought it was interesting, that's great for you, and I don't judge you. But
I think it was interesting. I think it was interesting that that they chose that as the side story, because there was no other side story,
right?
Other than, now that we get to skip to college, Title, and Title, who plays Tall, and CU.
And I love Title.
I mean, I also, as Cake should be threatened by Title.
Yeah, and I low-key kind of do ship Kuhart and Title. Like, I'd watch that show.
I ship Title with everybody.
Me too. That's what I mean.
I ship Title with himself, because right now in Remember Me, he's killing it on his own.
Yeah, I ship Title. Title is like Sia, like, or like Baz.
Yeah,
those three boys, like, it's unimportant to me who they get paired with, because like, they can carry their ship.
Yes.
No matter who it is.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
They could be shipped with like a ferret. It doesn't matter to me. Like,
I don't even remember.
Actually, that would matter to me. That'd be weird, but
oh, we've gone into bestiality. We're talking about pedophilia, and now we're in bestiality.
Everyone's super into this like cat and dog situation. So like, I don't know. This is not a jump.
But they're not cat and dogs.
That's a different conversation for a different day.
I was gonna say, what do you have to say to people who believe in reincarnation?
What do you mean? I don't understand how that connects.
If they're if we believe in reincarnation, and that like your dog can turn into a human, or that a human can turn into a dog.
I don't think anyone believes. I mean,
is like, because you can be reincarnated into
as
anything,
like
as a rock,
as like a grasshopper.
Ooh, there's another level there.
Yeah, still no. I I think that like if your long lost love gets reincarnated as a dog and you're reincarnated as a cat, you're not meant in this life to be romantically together. Let's wait until the next life. How about that when we're both humans?
But-
like, and we have not been transformed magically. Like,
But what if you are what if
no,
Parker,
no.
what if nobody had a problem with it in Hocus Pocus?
I had a problem with it.
Did you?
Yes.
Or in Sabrina the Teenage Witch? Although I don't think he was romantically.
No. Salem was never romantically involved with anyone. You psycho.
What's his name? Salem in
Yeah.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch?
Yeah.
Oh
No.
my God, so funny.
Also,
oh my God.
also, I'd like to point out Thackeray Binks also was never romantically involved with anybody. Everybody just thought he was cute. Kind of like how everybody thought
he had like a little girl who was dead though.
that was his sister, you creep.
Oh,
what is wrong with you? That was his little sister. The whole point is he's like avenging his little sister and trying to find her like soul. You are psychotic. What is wrong? Okay, Thackeray Binks was never romantically involved with anybody. Everybody just thought the actor who played him was cute. Just like how everybody thought the actor that played Casper the Friendly Ghost in the live action remake was like super hot, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, like Casper is a real boy."
Who was that?
I don't know his name.
I don't think I even was that the one that
Christina Ricci.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only remember Christina Ricci.
There's like a
Casper
part.
became a human.
So there's a part. Why are we talking about Casper the Damn Friendly Ghost? There's a part in the movie where it's like on this one specific night, and they have this potion, right? Because that's why Casper died. Is like his dad has been working on this potion to like
bring him back.
Ghosts human,
right?
And so like they have this potion, and he's able, like he shows up and is able to be like a human boy, and like he slow dances with her, and they like float in the air.
Who's that actor?
I don't know his name.
Gosh, I don't.
It wasn't like Jonathan Taylor Thomas or somebody like that. It wasn't anybody like famous.
I was more of a Zachary Tyler Bryan girl, but whatever.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas was like a little older than me. Like Zachary, whatever would have been like way too old for me.
Yeah.
To be, but anyways, no. Okay, Thackeray Binks was never romantically involved with anybody. Okay, and also like no.
Anyways, back to Title. That took a turn. Title played that excellently. P-Tall.
Yeah,
man, I loved the beginning of their college, like them reuniting. I thought was really sweet. I thought the way that they handled the fact that like they had been separated for 3-4 years,
right,
and that coming back together, they weren't supposed to be the same. Like it wasn't. In fact, when Cake left CU, he was like, please make friends, please do, please get out of your comfort zone. And also like Ben's, I forget the name of his character, but when Ben's has that conversation with CU about how he like joined the drama club and like made friends with the seniors. Oh gosh, that was just like so sweet and just like encouraging the way that all of CU's friends encouraged him and didn't force him into anything.
Right. It very much felt like he was in control of what he was doing at all times. It wasn't like he was being ostracized or being forced in the spot, right? Like it didn't see, or he was like just doing it wasn't like he was just doing something because Cake told him to.
Yes.
Which like is something that we saw that always bothers me when I see it, and I think is so disgusting when like in this kind of dynamic, when one person goes and does something simply because someone tells them to, that they love or whatever. So like for example, like that scene in I Promised You the Moon was disgusting to me. Absolutely disgusting to me. Like I had like a visceral reaction to that. And so like that this obviously would not have been as extreme as that, but like I really, really hate when somebody goes and does something for no other reason, not because they want to, not for any other reason, but then someone that they like or care about or love or whatever they're trying to gain favor from. Not necessarily trying to gain favor, but it's almost like they don't know themselves enough to know what it is that they really want. And so like they're not doing it for themselves. They're doing it in service of someone else.
Yeah.
And like I just think that especially in like romantic relationships, like that's not okay. Like you need to really know yourself and to be okay with like who you are and your actions and your decisions, and like not necessarily be swayed from by like a personality trait, like a whole ass personality
Well,
trait.
and I feel like that happens more so in like pre-romantic situations, which is like
Yeah.
a huge red flag.
Well, there's also, there's this whole thing on TikTok right now about like all these women talking about how they like
I know nothing about
set up.
TikTok.
Okay, so there's this trend on TikTok right now about, and it's like women talking about how like they basically tricked a guy into dating them and now they're married. And it's this like trend, and it's like, and they'll talk about like, so for example, one of the ones I saw recently was like, this girl was like, he was like new at my work, and like I forget how she got there, but like she was like, I pretended like or something XYZ, and he had to help me, and then we had to like text about it, and I like laid the foundation, and now like 5 years later he's my husband.
Oh my god.
And it all started with, she was like, I laid this foundation because I wanted to date him without like actively pursuing him. And it's just a whole thing, and it's a trend on TikTok right now.
Amazing.
Yeah, it does happen a lot. But I mean, mirroring is also a legitimate like flirting like thing that humans just naturally do. Right. So
I feel like that
it's
dynamic
not always diabolical.
I feel like that dynamic works well for men and women because men are the worst, and they need some
because
help
men
a
are
lot of
stupid.
time. Yeah,
no, like let's call
they
it.
need to be like given that confidence that
boys
like,
are dumb, and so like you can fully trick them into dating you if you try hard enough.
Yeah,
and I feel like my gay friends have talked about this before about tricking a man, like, and yes, boys are dumb.
Yes,
girls can be dumb too, though. Girls can be dumb too. The number of times I've been played.
Yes.
The numbers. I was just talking about Nick from high school who tricked me into being his lacrosse cheerleader. He had no interest in me.
They're not special.
I'm just stupid. You're not special. I'm just stupid.
God.
God.
So
fully.
That leads us into the whole conversation revelation. I didn't love that Cake was drunk in this moment. Where,
but I mean, I feel like that's legit, right? Like sometimes,
totally.
like what is like in vito veritas, right? Like in wine there is truth. It's like when you're
cute.
You never heard that before?
No. I don't think I've heard the Latin version of that before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think,
and this is why I got made fun of in high
school. But in that moment, like that conversation, I thought was an interesting way that they handled, because you don't see any development from Cake prior to that scene of feelings. Like you as the viewer see it. You're like, Cake, come on, my dude. Like, you like this boy, just like figure it out already. And that's why you're like frustrated with the way that he's acting in college, the way he's acting towards Pete Tall, the way
but
that
people
like,
process things at different speeds, and I think that like as a viewer it is kind of frustrating, because also because like we're going into it knowing it's a BL, so we're like, I know you're gonna end up together, so can you just do the thing? Like, here's
a new one that I absolutely loved. So in BL we get, if it wasn't you, it would be nobody else.
Nobody. This all started with like Sodas.
I'm only gay for you.
The whole like, if it wasn't him, I wouldn't be into anybody. Sodas started that.
Here's a new one that we got in My Only 12%. If you're gay, I will be gay with you. He literally says, because in that moment, CU is like, you can't be my friend anymore because I'm gay. You hate me. Like, I'm gay. You must hate me.
He's pulling a big Cake.
Yes. And so Cake is like, it's okay. I'd be gay with you. I mean, truly, when he said that line, I died. I was like, what in the BL?
I thought it was really cute, because I was like, to me, I interpreted it as
was
like
endearing, because at least it wasn't like, if I'm only gay for you.
Right. And like,
he's like, I'm gonna be gay now because you've changed me.
It was endearing to me because like I thought it was pretty cute, because I was like, okay, clearly like this boy understands that he has feelings for other boys, but he hasn't quite gotten to the point where you is,
right,
where he can like, where he's really admitted it even to himself.
He's like gone extreme. There's no middle ground. We can't be bi. We can't figure it out.
Well, I thought it was really cute because like I interpreted it as like, on some level, like he knew, like he had figured out, like, okay, I like boys, like this is where I'm at, but he hadn't like, again, got to the point where you was at with it.
Yes.
And I think that like in that moment, and I think it's very like descriptive of their friendship, and it like very much just like fits their friendship of like,
Yeah.
without knowing it, you had given him this out where he could be like,
Yeah.
yes, he didn't have to go through all those steps. It was something he already knew, and he
Right.
was like, solid. Like, he's given him this like easy answer to something that he needed.
And that reminds me, and that makes me think about how beautiful this story is, because you see two characters with two very different processes and experiences.
Yeah.
Because you'll have those people who realize their sexuality based on a grouping of experiences with the same sex.
Yeah.
And then you'll have people who have the experience with just one person. And I feel like I've heard women talk about this a lot, where they're like, I had this experience with this one girl and it changed me. And I feel like maybe less so with men, or less, I've heard it less so with men, where they like, this one man changed me.
I think
and more
I
of like,
hear it,
I saw men in general and was like, I feel feelings.
I think I hear it more from bi men. And I think that because like even now it's really hard to find like bi representation, and like there is still this like attitude that goes around somewhere sometimes that like bi is not real.
Right.
Like that you do, at least I still hear it sometimes in conversation, and like,
or
that
dismissed.
That's not true, right?
Yeah.
Or it's dismissed as like, you're still figuring it out, or you
Right.
just don't want to admit you're gay, or you just don't want to admit you're lesbian, right? Like, it's very much like it is perceived still today to be like not real. And so I think that like you hear more of that, like, well, it was this one, I had this experience with this one man, and that's what made, is because like you hear it more from bi men than gay men, because there's this like stigma, or has been for years, that like,
you sleep with a man, you're gay.
No, that like bi is not actually real. You're just not willing to admit that you're gay. And so like if you
I see.
say, at least like this is, my friends have like explained it to me this way,
right?
Like my friends that are gay men, that like if they hear somebody back in the day, if they would hear somebody say like, I'm bi, they like almost wouldn't want to associate with them, because they'd be like, oh, you just don't want to admit you're gay. Like, what's so wrong with being gay? Like, why aren't you willing to admit that you're gay? And so I think that we just don't hear it as much on that side of things, because there was for so long. And luckily I do think things are changing, at least in terms of like the way people talk about it, that like being bi is real. That actually is a real thing.
Yeah. And we're also getting more of it in BLs too, which has been really interesting. So yeah, that I did the way that he said that was actually really sweet, because I saw a little bit of this conversation. We've talked about this before. There's not a lot of BLs where they come out and they're like, I'm gay.
Yeah, it's like, always like, I have feelings for you.
Yeah, or like, they'll even say like, I like men, or what if I don't like girls?
Yeah, what if I don't like girls? That's in Big Dragon right now. That's how
Minghorn.
Wait, spoiler. That scenario happens in Big Dragon currently.
It happens in the Eclipse too.
Yeah.
Where he's like, what if I don't like girls? And so to hear a character say, I'm gay. Because we talked about this, and I was like, in Tarn Type, you hear Type say, I hate gays a lot, and you hear other people called Tarn gay. Does he actually say, I'm gay?
Yeah, when they have their like initial sort, like
confrontation,
their first confrontations, where like he's trying to like Type is trying to provoke Tarn into moving out, essentially. And Tarn, to his credit, like, Tarn Type is so problematic and so wrong in so many ways. But I was always impressed with the way that Tarn was like, I'm just gonna embrace it, and me being gay is not the problem.
No,
you having a problem with me being gay is the problem. And he always very much was like up for, like, he never felt guilty or weird or bad. He was like, my sexuality is not the problem here,
right?
And so like he was like, yes, I'm gay, so what? He does say that. He does say like, yes, I am gay.
So yeah, we don't see that as much, and so I thought it was really, really nice to hear a character be like, I'm gay, and then also to hear the character that falls in love with him be like, okay, I'll be gay with you.
Okay. It was really sweet.
Very sweet. I mean, truly the dynamic between Santa Earth is very sweet.
Yeah.
And the way they play these characters, these boys are such good actors. And at the end of the day, I know that like in talking about the show and talking about Santa Earth, we have to talk about the age difference between the two of them.
Right.
I think it's important to say that like these two boys are such good actors, and that sure, the ship work and the out of series content that we get leans more towards that kind of questionable area.
I will say I disagree with the ship work part of it. I think that the TikTok dances and stuff like that, I can see where if that was the only thing you were seeing, you would maybe be like shocked, or you would maybe make assumptions. But when we were getting ready for our interview with them, go watch our interview with them, I was like watching a bunch of stuff that they had done so I could get a better handle on like their personalities, right? We do this before every interview. We're like, we try to figure out like how, like what their personalities are so that we can then be like respectful of that, right? And so like I was watching all this stuff they had done. Also, they did something with God, so I had to like immediately watch it, obviously. And I will say, like, their show, even in that like Madan fun thing, the deck done that they did with God, they were like doing a photo shoot that was like a couple's photo shoot, right? Even in just watching the behind the scenes of that, where normally you would see a ship be like, you know, like shippy.
Shippy.
These two boys, it was very much like
Penong,
but it was very like like with a very professional, like it was very, very clear, I think, and obvious that like they work well together, and that like Santa admires Earth, and that Earth like likes to tease Santa, and and is like works well with him, but like the honestly it's the Earth show, which it like as well it should be. And it was just so professional. And like even when we interviewed them, like even during our interview, like they were like they giggled a little bit and were like kind of cutesy, but it wasn't, again, it wasn't shippy. It wasn't shippy in the way that like, for example, some of the more like famous ships like Mew and Golf, the way that they would play that, or like Z and Nunu, our current one, the way that like they play it, right? It when they're doing ship work, when Santa and Earth are like out there doing their ship work, it's not shippy. And I think that
it's a sweet dynamic. People
just get like so heated over these stupid dumb TikTok dances that like it's TikTok. Like, oh my God. And also like it's just, it's so very clear to me that this is like a professional work friends, like work bestie, right? Like that kind of thing.
I love their dynamic because I think Santa, like you said, admires Earth. And I think as someone in the industry, I think Earth is definitely somebody to be looked up to because he is owning who he is and he is proud of who he is. And he's never, of course, in the public eye that we've seen, has never caused any problems or been inappropriate or done anything wrong.
Right. Like he has never done anything wrong. And also the other thing that I want to point out with this, which we've said before, is that like typically these actors don't get to choose who they are shipped with. They get cast. They get cast for things and they don't
unless
get to
you're
pick.
Moss Bank.
Well, but even then, like Bank, it's not like Bank picked Moss.
No,
what he did is he was like, I don't know, this guy could be in Star Hunter. I want my 500 baht. He wasn't like, I want that boy to come kiss me. It wasn't like that. You know what I mean? Like these boys, in most cases, don't get to pick who they're shipped with. They are cast. This is a business. This is their work. And on top of that, it is not Earth's fault that he looks young.
No.
Like if you paired him with a boy, like, okay, for example, Big, like of Star Hunters, like Big Tinoy. If you were to pair Kuhart with him, it would look super creepy from like an aesthetic point of view. Because it like Earth looks young and like Earth should be allowed. Think about the West. Okay, we have people who are like 40 playing high schoolers. So like more power to him. If he looks young enough to play a high schooler, he should go play a high schooler. But in that moment, this should not be a never been kissed situation where, you know what I mean? Like it would be creepy if he got paired with somebody that was like mid to late 20s. It wouldn't look right. And so like it's not his fault that the powers that be saw that and were like, okay, we need to match him with somebody that like physically they look right together, and like they're not a real couple.
I know their dynamic is really sweet, and so that's what I think lends itself to this show. I'll be curious to see where they go from here, if they, because clearly this feels like one of those ships that's like gonna continue and they're gonna get cast together.
They work well together.
They work excellently together. I enjoy watching them in characters on a show. I think they have an excellent dynamic. I mean, Santa, seriously, I could go on and on and on about how well he acted this.
I think what's interesting about them is that their acting doesn't actually depend on their chemistry, because I just realized, I was like, we keep saying dynamic, not chemistry, because that's really what it is.
Yeah.
And so many of these ships really, really depend like solely on the chemistry, because like either the acting is not up to par, or the writing is not up to par, or like, right, like all of these things.
Yep.
With these two, they're both so talented that like actually their chemistry doesn't really come into play, like
because they both have chemistry with everybody.
Dynamic. Yeah, it's that like they both are just like personable and understand their characters and how their characters should behave, and they're just like both really good actors that like it doesn't come down to their chemistry. I think they just work well together, like because they're so professional.
I love that we get the development of their relationship pretty seamlessly, and then the plot twist of all plot twists in a show where the boys end up together and you're like, oh, happily ever after, this is gonna be so fun. And then Siu's mom gets cancer and goes and is gonna die.
And like, why? Honestly,
why do we have to make Kuhart cry for the next 3 episodes?
I mean, he is a beautiful crier, so like I understand the like. But honestly, like this was a big like, why
we got daddy issues.
This is honestly not to be that girl, but like I'll be that girl. This was like when freaking Pa gets like blindness disorder or whatever the hell he had for no reason. Like literally just so that Baz could go cry in a shower. Like,
and so Copter could act the mess out of that. Oh my god.
So that Copter could cry and Baz could cry. Like literally the plot device of this man going blind and dying was so that these two boys could cry.
So
now,
that
do they cry beautifully?
Could have a celebration of life at the beach.
I mean, life goes on, love goes on. Thank you.
I think that should be merch. Do you think Star Hunter
would it would be copyright infringement?
Star Hunter loves us. What are you talking about?
I think it would be copyright. I think KO would sue us immediately. He'd be like, "You're nothing."
He would go full GMMTV where you'd have a lawyer holding the paperwork.
Yes,
on the feed.
KO, I would never disrespect you like that. Please understand.
Oh, can we talk about how actually really not funny, but funny that is that like GMMTV is like, we're gonna put our lawyer holding a piece of paper on our IG feed
to prove that we are suing people, because people are that psycho on the internet. Oh, God. It's so dumb. It's so insane.
KO, we would
I would never disrespect you in that way. In fact, I feel like I already need to pay your royalties for the amount of times that I talk about Superboy.
I want to know now, thinking back, did season 1 have like a company that we just like ceasingly talked about? Because season 2 was obviously worldwide.
Right. Season 2 was You're My Sky. Junmai Katong Pa.
We got it in.
Always.
Listen, even if we've added Star Hunter,
we've added to our inner circle.
I mean, we have already mentioned
unwillingly.
Yeah, it's fine.
Unwillingly.
Unwilling
additions to the Let's Talk BL inner circles. God, I'm coming for you.
God.
Oh God. I don't know about season 1. Was it? I think it was Jeff. Jeff Satter. I don't think it was necessarily a couple that we would harp on a lot. I think that it was like we managed to bring up Jeff in every single episode.
I mean, he was the reason we started the podcast.
He was the reason we started the podcast.
Jeff Satter, we love you.
Jeff Satter.
Come on the podcast. Oh, that's
Jeff
right.
Satter, if you're
like
listening.
Literally every podcast we'd be like, come on the podcast.
We would be like, Jeff Satter. Yeah. The golden goose. Even back then I called him my golden goose. He is still my golden goose. I want everyone to know that I have never said die. I am still trying to get this man on the podcast. I've been trying to get this man on the podcast since June 16th, 2021. Yes.
Although
I never gave up. I'm still trying. Jeff Satter, if you're listening, come on the podcast.
I feel like the podcast, we should just like end it when we have Jeff Satter.
When we get Jeff, there is no more Let's Talk BL. We did the thing.
So like,
so Jeff don't come on, or I mean, maybe everybody go plead for Jeff to come on so that this will end.
No.
I feel like if God ever heard this, he would like write a personal letter to Jeff, being like, please.
How much do you think it would cost to book Jeff Satter?
I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't know. We've only ever successfully paid 2 of them.
We did get a quote.
Finally, but not even for a BL boy.
For a musical artist.
For a musical artist. But every time we ask the question, nobody will tell us. It's weird. So I don't know.
Interesting. TBD.
Should we
Tell us
should
in
we
the
try
comments how
should
much
we
you
try
think
and
we should pay.
should we try and book
Satter?
Jeff to like record a theme song for us for season 4?
Oh my God, can you imagine? How much would that cost?
How much would that cost? I don't know.
We'll give you royalties.
Yeah, all the money we make on this podcast.
Oh my God.
He pays us.
He pays us. I mean, we do got that bank connection now.
Right.
Bank put in a good word.
Go watch that IG live that we did with Moss and Bank, by the way.
Yeah.
Very interesting story about that OST
Last
and
night.
Jeff's creation.
When you're listening to this. if
Yes,
you're
or
listening
whatever
to
day
on
you're
Sunday.
listening to this. I'm just going to say that we've only done one IG live with Moss and Bank, so like there's
Go
only one to
listen,
go
yeah.
look at. But yeah, this will be my new project. This is, well, I have so many projects going on for season 4, you guys. It's not even funny. We're gonna add this because I am really curious to know how much it would cost to just like pay Jeff to like sing
To our faces.
a theme song for us. Because like he'd have to write something.
That would take him like a hot second.
Oh yeah, I would be like, Jeff, whatever. Like I don't know, he could be like barfing and record it, and I'd be like, perfect.
He could sing. He could sing. He could sing the phone book.
Sure.
The dictionary.
He could sing his ABCs, and I'd be like, yes.
Season 4 of LTBL is Jeff Satter. See something for a theme song.
I'd be like, yeah, 10 out of 10.
Oh my gosh!
I'm genuinely so curious.
But the caveat would be that he'd have to workshop the song
with us. We'd
No.
have to be like,
Okay, that sounds creepy. I'm sorry. I had a thought and then it left, and I won't say that out loud.
I'm frightened.
It wasn't that creepy. There's no nudity involved. It's fine.
I'm afraid. How much do you think it would cost to get Element to do it?
They'd pay us. What are you talking about?
Oh my God, now I need this. How much do you think it would cost?
Has any of Element written a song?
I don't know.
This took a turn. Going back to the show. CU's mom getting cancer and dying.
Why? Big Y energy.
Educational, because third-hand smoke.
Third-hand smoke kills.
This is the question that I had with Make It Right with the sex education.
This is the question. You only had one? I'm
only had one.
fascinated.
I only had one.
You only had one question about Make It Right. You're doing way better than me.
What was going on in Thailand that they were like, we need to PSA in a show about this thing? What is third-hand smoke an issue in Thailand right now?
I mean,
I didn't even know third-hand smoke was a thing. Like, I'm gonna be dying soon because man, did I get third-hand smoke from my grandpa's house.
Right.
When my grandpa passed away, like,
dangerous.
Ooh.
I will say it is very dangerous because
well, now you can die of eating smoked things.
So like we were given.
Did you know that?
Yeah, because of carcinogens.
Insane.
We were given our first house by my husband's parents. It was the house he grew up in. And his dad had been renting it because like he didn't still live in it because my husband's parents are divorced, and it was like the house he raised his family in. And so then he got a new wife, and his new wife was like, this is creepy, I'm not living here. But his dad didn't want to sell it, so he'd been renting it. And then we got married, and he was like, have a house, which is like a wild gift to be given, I'll be honest with you. And it's also, I understand, not a normal gift and a very privileged gift.
Yeah.
But he had been renting it, and he's such a nice guy. Like, he's a terrible businessman. He is not prudent. Tidal would be so disappointed in him.
Tidal would be, although I feel disappointed in Tidal right now because Elon Musk is not the person to ask about anything.
But so he'd been renting it out, and even though the policy was like no smoking in the house, like he had let these people, they like hadn't paid rent in like 6 months, but they had kids, and so he didn't want to evict them, and he felt bad. It was like a whole thing.
Yeah.
And so they move out finally. and we get the house, and they had smoked in there for like years at that point. And it was like, it felt gross and bad, like just breathing in there. And so we had a company come out and like clean, because the only way to do it is like you have to clean with chemicals.
Yeah.
And it literally pulls the tar out of the walls. Like you can see it happening. It literally looks like a horror film.
Yeah.
It does. Like you can see the like black drips coming out of the wall after they apply this stuff. And they fully were like, you guys can't stay here until this is done.
Telly's just staring at me.
They fully were like, you guys can't stay here until this is done, because like you will get sick. Like this is dangerous.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Third-hand smoke, y'all.
Third-hand smoke.
I mean, like first and second-hand smoke, bad. Third-hand
also bad. Everything's bad.
Don't kill. Although
everything
in the West,
you.
Nobody cares if you kill whoever, because like we didn't want to wear masks all of COVID. So
everything will kill you. That's all you need to know.
I mean, truly, how did we survive the 80s with all the BPA we were taking in?
I wasn't alive in the 80s.
Whatever. 90s. BPA was still a thing in the 90s. Yeah, this show took a turn, but the show was good.
It was really sweet. I liked it way more than I thought I would, only because I was apprehensive about it.
Wabi Sabi, give freaking Kuhart, Big Earth, or Little Earth, Katzmanet. I forget the rest of his name because I said it, but I don't remember.
You did say it.
Give him fluff.
I know. Can't he just be happy? Damn.
Give him. What do you want to see Kuhart in?
You know what I feel like Kuhart would be fun in? Like a Mama Go-Go kind of situation, but he's Chris's character.
Funny.
Yeah.
Love that. I was thinking like a Secret Crush on You, where he like there's some like depth to that character, to Sang's character.
Oh, Sang. Okay.
Yeah. Where he's like a little crazy.
A little.
Because like there's some acting depth to that. Like because Little Earth is an excellent actor.
He's a great actor.
So like
yeah.
I wouldn't want him to just be like a fluffy one note type of character. Like I'd want something like a little.
You know what I want for him? Let's bring it back to where we need to be. Truly, everyone emotionally and in life, this is where you need to be.
Oh no.
You know what I want for him?
I'm afraid.
Why are you afraid?
I don't know.
You're gonna love it. San. From You Are My Sky, Jude My Katong Fa. He is San, because there's acting depth to that, but he's always so happy and positive. Nothing bad happens to him ever. He like
yeah, I live my life according to San.
Yeah, San.
San's a perfect character.
San. You Are My Sky, Jude My Katong Fa. Yet again proving to us that perfect shows do exist.
You can't find a more perfect character than San.
San. You Are My Sky, Jude My Katong Fa.
And if you can, first of all, you should go rewatch You're My Sky and tell me if you think there is a more perfect character.
San is wonderful.
I know exactly what you're thinking. Okay, this has been Let's Talk Real. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow all things Let's Talk Real at Let's Talk Real. Bye.